All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode. This week we have a special guest. In addition to our original crew, Diego, AJ. Thank you guys for joining us. Zomb, welcome back. Former feature on this show. We had you on last year, earlier on in the year. We're happy to have you back. We'll see if this is a regular occurrence, but as for now, you're just our feature, and we'll have a talk, a discussion if you want to come more than once. Just because Raf's been busy, and we want to try to add that fourth member. I know Diego kind of helped arrange that, so um, thank you for that. Zomb, we're glad to have you on, and we just wanted to kind of get a background of kind of your page. We wanted to introduce you kind of like we do with any feature. So if you kind of wanted to just start out and maybe shout out your page in some sort of way and kind of give your thoughts on the first opening weeks of the season.
Well, thank you for having me again. I had a pretty fun time last time. Glad to be back. I'm mainly on YouTube. I am also on Instagram a little bit, but a lot on Twitter. But my YouTube account is Phox UFL. Every single week, I post a power rankings video, a week review where I look over the games that happened this past weekend, as well as the TV ratings and attendance. And then I give my game picks, usually on Friday, my overall predictions for the season. I do a couple live play-by-plays every week as well. I usually spice in an extra video during the week, something fun to do. Again, it's a community driven channel. A lot of people always interact with each other, and it's a pretty fun time to be there.
Yeah, so I mean, Zomb is just like one of us. He's trying to, kind of really understand and get, people who are new to the sport to understand the game more and kind of what it stands for and, what these teams are about and, some players that stand out to him. So we're happy to have you, Zomb, once again. And I know this show is going to be great. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So, kind of wanted to get you guys' thoughts. We can go one by one here. I mean, I can start it off. I think, it was definitely a tale of two ends. We saw, a game that was, a little bit higher scoring than we might have thought. I thought Michigan and San Antonio wouldn't get into those numbers, but, we did see a 3 point game at the end, which for some of us was unexpected. But then you had Arlington and Birmingham, which we thought would be the highest scoring affair, and it just wasn't. It was 10-9, and there was some points of controversy that throughout the game that we'll get into a little bit later. But all in all, I just think that it was a little bit of a lopsided weekend. A lot of stuff happened, and sometimes it's going to be like that. But I think we'll get into a little bit of some struggles that we've started to see. The tweet from James Larson, our good friend, came out with that the night of Friday night's game. So we'll kind of get into that. But I'll let you guys surface your thoughts first here.
Yeah, great weekend of football. Um, I was, like you said, I was surprised by the score of Michigan and San Antonio. They put up a good amount of points. And then, that DC and St. Louis game was a great game. And last week I said, this was going to be the week if, they could prove if they was a solid team, one of the better teams. And I think DC played great. Their defense played great. They played pretty good offensively. So that was my highlight game that I saw. That was my favorite game. And then on that Houston game real quick, again, I talked about him last week. Leon O'Neal, he had another great week. Saw him flying all over the field. So personally, that's one of my favorite players so far this year.
Yeah, and he'll be talked about later in the show. We've seen early Defensive Player of the Year posts and thoughts about him, and I would say I agree with those because he's like you said, he's been flying over the field. He's been real impactful for that defense, and with a team like Houston struggling on offense, you always need a guy like that on the defensive side of the ball. So, but yeah, Zomb or Diego, feel free to share your thoughts here this past weekend.
Yeah. It was a pretty eventful one, but kind of like what AJ said, it kind of varied in how if it was good or if it was bad or just really just drove a lot of controversy. But I think probably honestly, the game I did not expect to get so close and just chaotic was Houston and Memphis. I think that game, even though Memphis lost, I think they still put up a pretty good fight. I mean, they still have some things they got to sort out with Wesson Hunt officially coaching again. Um, but of course, the Birmingham Stallions, I don't know what the heck Friday was. I mean, it is what it is. Matt Corral, I mean, he's very known for just coming alive in the fourth quarter. And um, for Michigan, that was a very good win for him. That Jalen Sheridan dude, man, I I was looking a bit. I like when I saw that play happen, I thought that was Devin Ross, but I'm like, oh no, this is a new guy. So I'm like, okay. So I mean, I've been reading up on him a bit. Pretty cool story, but all in all, it was a pretty good week.
Yeah, and I think I mean, like you talked about Jaden Sheridan, he it just hasn't like it just goes to show we'll talk about him a little bit more later, but I mean they're just I mean Zomb was talking to me about this before we started the show that the rushing presence really hasn't been there for any team this season. So for a running back two, they had Toa Tawa in the backfield as running back one after Matt Coburn went down. So, but now it's about how do you step up, and Sheridan really did that, and I think he'll definitely get more snaps in the coming weeks. So, but yeah, Zomb, what'd you think of this past weekend?
I was overall, aside from the Renegades Stallions game, I thought this was a great week of football. I mean, even though the final score doesn't look like it was a close game, that St. Louis DC game was pretty much down to the wire. The Michigan San Antonio game, legit contender for game of the year right there. And Memphis, man, I mean, well, they may be 0-3, but if you are going to watch one team play every week, that's the team you watch because they're the only team that's put up three really fun games to watch. The game against Michigan was fun. The game against DC was fun, and this one against Houston was another fun one to watch. But yeah, I mean, I know we'll talk about it a bit later, but man, these offenses, even though we saw some potential in some of them, it's still been an overall pretty weak year for them. So hopefully we see an uptick in that this week. But overall, man, this is the best week of football we've had this season so far.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. Like you said, it's the bar is not very high, but we can't ask for much more than what we've been getting, what we got in the first 2 weeks. I think the third week was definitely an improvement, and hopefully a sign of things to come. So, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and move it along here. So. We can pick a quarterback. This is a segment we kind of added a couple weeks ago. I think we added it the second week. I don't think we had it in the first week with Roth, but we're just gonna pick quarterback that you maybe stood out to you this past week, or maybe you would like to see more from them, or maybe a performance that surprised you. It could be anybody. It could be somebody who played a little bit of snaps. It could be somebody who played the whole game. Whatever you kind of want to take on and tackle, it's up to you. But so you're just gonna rate their performance, give them a letter grade, and kind of back up why you gave them that grade. So I can go ahead and get it started here. So quarterback I'd like to pick on for this past weekend. Give me Manny Wilkins of the St. Louis Battlehawks. Definitely a weird performance from him, so to speak. Weird performance from both quarterbacks in that game. Jordan Teamu also had a weird one, but definitely a lot better of one. Manny Wilkins didn't pass the ball that well. Didn't rush that well. I mean, didn't really do much things that didn't really do a lot of things good. But overall, I think with what that quarterback room looks like, we just saw Siobhan Cordero go on IR, so he's gonna miss 5 weeks. You kind of you're kind of left with no option. You got to ride out with Wilkins and kind of hope for the best. And not to mention DC's got a good defense, so that's only another thing that Manny Wilkins had to deal with. So overall, I'll give his performance a C minus. I don't think like even that Frank Darby play, with the touchdown, like I mean the throw was literally like a duck. I mean it was up there for so long. It was a one-on-one. I mean if anybody was gonna win that battle, it was Frank Darby because just there was no safety help. I mean the ball was up there for a while. It was a bigger player, so I mean just not overall a good performance. But I think with Becht, at the helm, I think he'll be able to get Manny back on track. So, but yeah, I'll let you guys take the floor here. Just kind of pick a quarterback. It could be somebody who played limited snaps, whole game, whatever you'd like.
Yeah. I'll start off with Nolan Henderson of the Houston Roughnecks. He came in and around the second half. There were a lot of struggles with Anthony Brown, a lot of guys, across the fan base, just like, why is he still in? Why is he still starting for Memphis? Henderson is better. And, I had the same opinion. He just did not feel like the leader that CJ Johnson wants for this team. But at the same time, I guess he just wanted to still give him a shot. But when Henderson came in, things flipped. I mean, just that offense looked a lot more poised with each other, a lot more chemistry. I mean, want to give a shout out to wide receiver Emmanuel Butler for that touchdown grab. I mean, I'm like, could Houston really win this game? And just, even though Nolan Henderson had only 80 yards, one touchdown, but his completion rating was 90.9% for 10 and 11 passes thrown. And, very solid performance. I'd probably give him a solid C. Nothing groundbreaking. I mean, he was only in for one half. So, but CJ Johnson has said that he's going to be the starter going forward. So, who knows what this is going to do for him going into this next week.
Yeah, and going into next week playing Birmingham, and I know everybody's excited for that. I know UFL update came out with a post for it. Just because Nolan Henderson's, I doubt he would come out with a post if Anthony Brown was playing, but that's for you guys to speculate. But Nolan Henderson, yeah, definitely turning heads around the organization and should be a lot better offense for Houston moving forward. So, but Zomb or AJ, what do you guys think? Pick quarterback here.
I'm gonna have to go with Anthony Brown. I would pick Teamu, but I've done a lot of that on my channel for the past couple videos, so I feel like taking a break from the Teamu hate. But man, Anthony Brown, this was just a continuation of a rough year for him. I mean, through 3 games, he's given us that one good drive in week 2, and aside from that, man, it's just been rough. I mean, he finished like barely above 50 completion percentage. He had like some awful stat line. I mean, 8 of 15 for 40 yards. That's just, 5 yards of completion is rough. I mean, he had a passer rating like 59 in this game. Across the season, he has a lower passer rating than Seth Green, who's not even a quarterback, and who threw one pass that was incomplete. So he has a legit negative passer rating when you consider that. I mean, I would give him an F, but he at least didn't throw an interception this week, so I'd have to give him a D. It's just, Roughnecks fans complain about J.R. Garantano last season, but Brown's been somehow even worse than that. I think he's up there with some of those 2022 Maulers quarterbacks were the worst quarterback of this ultra-modern spring football era so far, for sure.
Yeah, so as you can see, Zomb is not a very not a big fan of Anthony Brown, and I'm not either. A lot of people aren't. I mean, I don't know many fans that were very high on him going in, and obviously now they're not. So, but AJ, what did you have something to say?
I'll take Bryce Perkins from Michigan. He's one of my favorite guys so far. He threw for 193, ran for 30 yards, and had 2 touchdowns. And I think we talked about it last week with Colburn going down, that he would run a little bit more. And we saw that, but we also saw their running backs be productive. But I think another great game for him in a close win against San Antonio. Just just to say Kellen Mond, I just want to shout him out for a second because I said how bad he was playing. I think he played. He took a step forward this week. He played better, probably one of his better games. So hopefully, we see him advance a little more. But I just want to shout him out real quick because I've been talking bad about him. So give him his
Yeah,
credit.
I agree with you. I think he's been playing better. He played better this past week, and I think that if he can like build off of this performance, I think Brahmas will have a chance. Like, okay, maybe not against DC, but for maybe the week after the week. So, but DC might be a little bit of a tall order, but yeah, I think Mond definitely should look at some of the things he did in this last game for games moving forward. So. But yeah, thank you everyone for picking a QB here. We're gonna go ahead and kind of get into attendance and TV ratings. I know this weekend, honestly, it was kind of it kind of matched the story of the games with the tale of two ends. We saw some pretty good TV and attendance ratings for some of the games, like the more highly anticipated ones. But then for the games that we didn't think were going to do so well, we kind of expected those, but maybe not the severity that we saw it at. So, um, but what I'm referring to is Memphis. I think they saw TV ratings somewhere in like the 200,000s, maybe the
You're
mid.
just under 300K.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, not very good. And then I know their attendance was in the 4,000s, the low 4,000s. So, and then when we compare that to the other teams in this past weekend and the other home games, just not a very strong showing. And when the team's 0-3, there is some justification, but you just hope for that number to get better. I mean, I know they're playing. Well, I think they're on the road this week against. No, no,
Yeah, they're on the road against
they're on the.
Michigan on
Okay, yeah,
Friday.
they're on the road. But I mean, if they can pull away with a win here and not get swept against Michigan, I think there's likely a chance you can see more fans at the next game that they have at home. So, but no, I mean, if you guys have anything on Memphis's weak numbers, I know it might not be that easy to talk about when it's not that good, but um,
I mean, Memphis, it's just people were talking about heading into this season about how Memphis, if one team were to relocate, it would be Memphis. And I mean, it's not like they've done a job trying to go against. I understand it was against the Masters, Saturday, the game that was on TV. But I mean, sub 300K on ESPN. I mean, that's like weaker than ESPN2 and FS1 games were last year, and even this year. I mean, the FS1 game with the Battlehawks hit like 500K almost. So like that's just a pitiful number. And I mean, their attendance went up from week 1 to week 2, and it was still worse than any Vegas Vipers game we saw. And we all complained then about how bad the Vipers were. It's just I hope for the Showboats fans that they stick around, but if they keep this up, I wouldn't be shocked if this team gets moved.
yeah, I mean, it's something we talked about it, Diego and AJ. I think maybe on the last episode how there were other sport competitions going on, but those have like subsided. Those have finished, and now obviously the Masters. Again, I mean the Masters probably has a lesser impact than what we were talking about. How March Madness and everything. But yeah, I mean it just goes to show how you know, I mean I mean even the smallest things could have an impact, but I don't even think it had that big of an impact this past weekend on it. So
I can't speak for Saturday, but I remember hearing that the Masters Sunday was the highest viewed like golf day since like 2007. I don't know about Saturday and all that, but I know Sunday with the whole Rory McIlroy Grand Slam chase that was like the highest we've seen in a long time. And I think I've seen a lot of people agree that if the Masters wasn't going on, that St. Louis DC game would have easily cracked over a million.
yeah, yeah, that's a great point because we saw great numbers in those games, and to think we could even see better numbers is definitely optimism, and we'll hope we can see those numbers next week. I'm not too familiar. Oh well, we've got NHL playoffs starting, we've got NBA playoffs starting.
WrestleMania's this weekend.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there is a lot, but again, I mean, kind of that into that core season. I mean, we're getting into week 4 here. I think like once you get to like 6, 7, don't edit me. Okay, once we get to week 6 and 7, you'll start to see a little bit more of an increase, hopefully. Okay, if Ralph was here, he might have said something about that, but we're not gonna talk about that. Okay, so no, I think you guys can kind of take the floor on that. If you have any observations or kind of anything on the attendance this past weekend or TV ratings, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Well, to start off, I want to talk about Birmingham a bit. We just barely cracked the 10,000, which I mean, for spring football, as I mentioned previously on here, that's solid. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of people on Instagram, Twitter, and other platforms like, oh my gosh, they're three-time champions. Why isn't there at least 15,000 in the venue? Like, I get it. I mean, when you compare it to last year's home opener, we cracked 12,000, which, very solid atmosphere. And I mean, I'm mixed about it. I do think that we should show up. We should show up proud for our team. We have a great culture, but at the same time, there's many other factors with this. One, of course, marketing hasn't been the greatest this year. I know there's a lot of controversy about that in the off season. Second, I mean, it was a Friday night. There was some rain going into it that maybe would have hindered it a bit. And then third, I mean, the game wasn't all exciting, of course. And for most of the game, I mean, there were little reports that fans were leaving. So it was probably maybe a good 5,000 around when the game ended. So at the same time, I am staying optimistic. I think our attendance numbers will go up a bit as the season goes along, especially after this last Friday game against Memphis in week 5. But aside from Birmingham, I mean, Memphis, man, like we said, it's very concerning, very concerning. I mean, I don't want to get down. I don't want any teams to be relocated. I mean, I was talking to this one dude on Reddit who was saying that his friend, fans will only show out to like the Memphis teams if they're actually like good or stuff like that. So it kind of has like a LA kind of take on that, I guess, which I could totally understand. I mean, the only thing they've really had to enjoy was that 5-5 season in 2023, which very unfortunate. But going back, it was very nice to see a game crack over 900K on ABC. That's one thing I thought we were going to see last week, but it's very nice to see this going on now. And, as I tell a lot of people, I think that both the attendance and the TV ratings will only get better from here. I mean, we saw record breaking in Michigan. I think, we just got to enjoy these things while we can, just for the longevity of spring football. I don't like to be negative. I just like to keep an open mind. I'm always here for discussions. That's why I'm on here. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's how every fan should think. Kind of like you, but unfortunately, that's not what the case is. They kind of just look for the bad, and they degrade the league, and all that, and but no, I mean, if they do have to relocate, obviously, we're not thinking about that, but if that is the case, we'll support it. It's just another thing we have to deal with, going into potentially next season and all things like that. So. AJ, did you have any thoughts on kind of the past weekend's attendance and TV ratings?
Yeah, I thought Birmingham would be higher. I thought they might be close to matching St. Louis. I thought I said that last week, but just trying to be, maybe it was the rain. They kind of kept them away, and I think they're in Houston next week. So they got another week before they have another home game. So, hopefully the attendance goes up. And as for Memphis, I did think about maybe they might be one of the teams that may relocate just because of the attendance numbers. I think maybe if they figured out a big name to bring in, that at least get people in the stadium. I don't know who that would be, but, stuff like that. And I know they try to do a lot this offseason. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's doing too much. But, still, like you said, they're playing pretty good. they're one of them teams that at least show up to play. So hopefully the attendance will match that soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping so. It does too. You know, when you do a lot in the off season to kind of improve or increase your team's viewership and attendance. It's always great to see. It's always great to see you guys like match that energy and really like show like return on investment basically, right? So, but yeah, I mean, so we can go ahead. So the championship was announced. We're kind of switching gears here. So the championship announcement was made halftime of the Battlehawks DC game. We got told that the championship will take place at the Dome at America Center for another year here. Um, that game will be, I believe, on June 14th. I believe that's a Saturday. Is that on ABC?
Yeah.
ABC. Okay, so yeah, so Saturday, June 14th. Join us as we watch the championship between a team from the XFL and the USFL. And yeah, I mean, hopefully for a great time. I do want to mention though, I think last year they had the game on Father's Day. Is that right? Okay, and they avoided it this year by electing to play on that Saturday. And then but then it's worth mentioning that the playoff game is on a Sunday, so you can see how they kind of flipped the switch. They opted to play on that Saturday, kind of avoiding potential Father's Day congregation for a lot of the league. So it's great that they did that. I mean, that was the first thing I noticed is that in order to kind of increase maximize their potential for viewers, they opted to play on that Saturday and thus allowing fans to meet with their families and kind of allow for that next day after the first day of the off season to meet with their families. So a good job on the league for that. I'm glad that they might have realized that the numbers weren't where they should have been last year, and yeah, overall, I'm glad that they did that. But what do you guys think? You guys, did you guys realize that too? Did you guys notice that?
I actually did not realize about the whole Father's Day thing.
Yeah, I know. It's something I noticed. I remember we talked about it last year. Father's Day, having it on Father's Day might not have been the best thing, and for them to avoid that this year.
Other thing too,
Yeah.
I was potentially considering traveling to that game last year too. I almost considered taking my dad, but I'm like, one, it's Father's Day. Two, it was kind of short notice before, I thought about telling him. So I'm like, it wasn't great scheduling for the league to do it on that Sunday evening. So it's really nice that they're gonna do it on a Saturday evening this time, and it's on ABC. So there's a chance that you could crack hopefully 1.5 million, maybe even better.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited. I mean, I know it's such a long way from now, and we're not going to talk about it in detail because we still have all these games to get by and and to analyze. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited as much as you guys are. So, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and kind of get into some kind of the gist of what this week kind of brought us. So we're gonna kind of talk about some of the teams that might have stood out to you guys, or I know. So there was a tweet on Friday night, kind of during the Birmingham and Arlington game. Obviously, the score ended 10-9, which nobody anticipated. It was James Larson. I brought this up earlier. He said that the offensive the offensive talent just isn't where it should be, and that it's not even like the defenses are playing well. I mean, yeah, there's been a couple players that we've seen playing well, but it just nothing really in collectiveness has shown up. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Do you agree with that? There has been offensive struggles throughout the league. Has it been something that we should pay attention to going almost here halfway, or is it something that we should just allow to kind of play out and see what happens here and kind of getting on to the halfway point of the season? So.
I think that's one point that that's one that I absolutely agree with. I mean, you will always have the argument that even with any kind of league, that some teams will kind of start rusty. They still need to like work into some of these things, especially for the first 2 weeks. And I agreed with it. But even then, I thought, some teams like Birmingham or San Antonio, like those kind of teams, you would think that they would put up more reasonable numbers. And but now, even when you're still seeing this in teams such as Arlington, where they have Perez and they have all this talent and they're still struggling, what's going on? Like, a lot of people bounce back the idea of starting the season in February. So, you have that leniency. It's not bad, but I mean, there's a lot of talent. My hope is that if there is expansion next year, that they will try to like restructure this like plan a bit, just so we could see some more competitive games a bit earlier in the season. I mean, we obviously saw that contest for the opener with Birmingham and Arlington, very close game, went into the 20s. So I mean, there's a lot you can argue about that, and there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, I mean, I put that point down because that tweet definitely opened my eyes a little bit. It is unfortunate, but I mean, and I'm not gonna use the excuse this week. Don't worry, guys. I'm not gonna say it's only been 3 weeks. Because now this is the time of the season where teams have to start getting their act together. And it's unfortunate they're not because they have to start winning and doing the best for their teams. But no, I definitely agree. I think it's something that we should keep an eye on here in these next couple of weeks. But Zomb or AJ, what did you guys think when I put that down?
I mean, I kind of agree with Larson fully. I ended up making a whole video about this whole issue the day after that Renegade Stallions game. I mean, to Diego's point about the, early week excuses, looking at if you eliminate week 1 from last year to this year, I've got the scores pulled up. Last year, weeks 2 and 3, the lowest scoring game was the Birmingham Michigan game, which was 20-13. Whereas week 2 and 3 this season, we've had 2 separate games that the combined points were 20 or less. So to the point of Larson saying about scoring, I mean, it is severely down from last season. And that's even with the 3 really good games we had this weekend, the Houston, Memphis, San Antonio, Michigan, DC, St. Louis. Even with those, the scoring is still just nowhere near what it was last season through 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, it's unfortunate to see, and it's not like a lot of these teams like have gotten better, so to speak, on the offensive side of the ball. Some of them have lost talent for sure, but also, I mean, and the coaching has been a little bit different. But I mean, it hasn't been something where like every team drastically changed. It's just been, and then when you see it with every team, then that's why it's concerning. So, AJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I just think it's surprising when I see teams like Birmingham, Arlington, and like St. Louis or DC. Those teams have had not every single person, but a good majority of their team pretty much be the same. So those might be the teams that you think, okay, if everyone else struggles, they'll be good. And for the most part, they are. But at the same time, if you compare this year to last year, it was a lot more high scoring games. And now it seems as if, they're not going. And I mean, with it being a 10-game season and, we're 2 weeks from it being halfway point, I mean, teams like Memphis, they can't really afford to, lose too many more games. Or it'll be like Arlington where they started off bad and they caught a run, but it was only 10 games. So at that point, they had played themselves out of it, no matter what they did. So I think starting, week 4 next week, I think those teams, they got to figure it out, and they've got to start, trying to make a push if they want to sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point you make about Memphis is because they have to kind of go away from that 2 quarterbacks now. I think every team, we'll get into that I think a little bit later, is that every team has to go away from the 2 quarterbacks because at this point you should have a bona fide number 1, and if you don't, then that's why you're losing because you're not letting one guy settle in, you're not letting one guy kind of manage the offense. Like if you're switching a guy out, like, that's why, like, the Roughnecks have had their struggles, similarly to the Showboats. But obviously now with Nolan Henderson being the guy moving forward, I think they're going to see less of those, because, if you put it in, two different guys throughout the game, like, the offense is used to, one guy than they are to another guy. Like, they're not used to like, they have different ways of doing the offense. And so, like, if you have two different guys, it totally throws everybody else off. So I think if every team can stick to one guy, which the majority have and will for these next couple weeks and moving forward, but if every team can do that, I think they'll see a better, better offensive performances. But
And another thing too, you know, obviously we've seen this two quarterback system vary in some of the other leagues. I mean, it worked well with the New Jersey Generals in 2022 with Perez and Johnson because, I mean, both of them had different skill sets, but, they were able to utilize that to their advantage, which, they put them in certain crucial situations that really just put them for success. And then, of course, last year, the Stallions, they started both Corral and Martinez. It varies. It's not always going to be good. It's not always going to be bad. But like with Michigan, just make up your mind already. What are you guys going to do?
well, I think now, I mean, they have to have their number one. I think with how Perkins played, and obviously the injury to Etling, and you bring in Alan Bowman from former college quarterback. I don't know how much time he's going to get, but I hope Mike Nolan's made up his mind, like you said, because it's that time of the year where you gotta know who your guy is, because, like, it's gonna kind of trickle into to your teammates, and it might affect them. So, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and move it along. I think that was great. We could talk about that for a while, but we have other things to cover here. So yeah, I mean, well, that was actually a good transition. I don't know if we have to go into this much, but the quarterback plans moving forward. We can pick a quarterback. You guys can kind of pick one respectively. It can be from the team that you like, a team that maybe you think is up and coming. Whatever you think. Obviously, we know. I think really a majority of the teams have kind of established their starter. I think probably the only team in question at this point is, I mean, I could say Memphis.
St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah, that's true. You have, that's a good point. I mean, you guys can pick one. You guys don't have to because we did cover a lot of it, and it is a little tougher because a lot of them are already obvious. But if you'd like to, you can. Maybe I'll let you guys. I'll just let two of you guys pick whoever you guys feel.
I just want to see somebody else get a shot with DC. I mean, ever since about week 6, 7-ish of last season, I've been just slamming the desk saying that you need to play somebody other than Te'amu. Because to me, he's somebody that's living off that glory of 2023. And before and after that, he's really hasn't been a great quarterback. And I know, like, you'll have guys defend him on Twitter and all that, and they'll try to make their points about their 3-0. They are 3-0, but that's not because of him. It's in spite of him. Like, at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that if you're completing less than 50% of your passes across 3 games, that you are inaccurate. There may be some drop passes by your receivers, but there was a lot of dropped interceptions by St. Louis in that game. I would like to see DeLillo or Sanders get a legit shot as a starter, but I don't think we're going to see that happen.
Yeah, you're making us rethink our awards here. Going on later, but yeah, I mean, well, it hasn't been a high bar for much of the stuff, so that's been a recurring theme. So we'll mention that once we get into it. But yeah, AJ Diego. I mean, if you guys have a thought about a quarterback and kind of the starter, what do you guys think?
I'll say Max Duggan, but not for him to start. But just, even if they feel like Manny Wilkins is their guy, I feel like they can create a couple packages for him. Maybe like a Taysom Hill, get him out there, use his speed. Because, I mean, the couple of times we seen him run, he, looked like he was pretty fast. And I feel like they could even set him up as their future guy if that's where they want to go. And they feel like maybe Manny Wilkins is just a transitional guy. But I'd like to see them, give him more packages, make the defense, have to look at something different, especially if they have a game like last week where, their offense, they didn't run the ball, maybe as well as they did the week before. So maybe you put Duggan in and give them something different to look at.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, like we said, the two quarterback system may be a harm to some teams, but also at this point in the year when you got Duggan and Wilkins, like both two good legitimate quarterbacks, I think it's not necessarily a benefit, but it doesn't also hurt because you have so many other great parts on the team that you can afford to trot two guys on there at, maybe different parts of the game. And the offense is very quarterback friendly, so Beck can also, adjust accordingly. So, but yeah, I mean, so Diego, I know you probably have something, but I mean, what do you think? Do you have thoughts on a starter?
Yeah, I feel like no one's really touched up on this yet, but the Memphis Showboats, they, like EJ Perry, as I brought up before, he's a guy I've always felt iffy about. Like I've always thought he doesn't have that great of an arm. He can be inaccurate at times. He really only has his legs. I could go on and on, but with this matchup on this Friday against Michigan, I feel like the best guy that will set him up for success is Troy Williams. I mean, he's not an exceptional guy, but I mean, I feel like he could be a little smarter with the ball. I mean, the only issue with Memphis is that they are a bit injury prone at receiver, as we've seen so far in the injury reports. So I don't know how much they're going to be able to do this Friday, but with the guys that you still have, I think that you should give Troy Williams a shot to start. So, and especially with you being 0-3, you have to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think, yeah, definitely, probably the most undecided at this point, and it has to be the most decided at this point. Like it might be the most undecided, but you have to roll with one guy now moving forward because, like AJ said earlier, and like you just said, Diego, they got to start winning some games, and that starts with the quarterback, and you can't have two guys out there because we have seen they play very differently. So sticking to one guy is the best case scenario for Memphis, and whoever it is, I mean, I think you can get production out of both, but that just depends on kind of what Wissenhund's drawing up and everything. So, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and move it right along here. So, kind of more into the week four, the upcoming week here. We can go ahead and get into our predictions. I know Zomb, I kind of added you onto our visuals. I can pull that up real quick. Raf will still be in our group chat and we'll still keep in touch with him. But for this week, I asked everybody for their picks. But before I show everybody's picks, we can go ahead and get into everybody's predictions one by one. So, Zomb, I know I just asked for your picks, but usually we do like a score by score. I don't know if you remember from last year, but if you can come up with those on the fly, I should have told you beforehand. But
Yeah, my team predictions are probably gonna be the same as when it comes out my video. I know it might change a little bit from when this comes out to when the video comes out, just with injuries and stuff. But as for just my base picks, I'm gonna have to go with this week: Michigan, St. Louis, BM, and DC. Now the Michigan Memphis game, I think that's going to be a very fun game. I really think that all these games are probably going to be close. The only one that might not be close is DC San Antonio, but even that one I think is going to be close. But if I were to give score predictions, Michigan basically only goes for one for some reason. So I think they're probably going to score like 3 touchdowns, get a field goal, just go for one each time. So I think they're going to score 23 or 24 points in this game. Memphis, they've lost all 3 of their games essentially on the last drive of the game, and I think that continues. They lose by 3, so I'm going to guess like 24 or 23 to 21-20. Arlington, St. Louis, I think St. Louis understands they got to bounce back, and Arlington's offense just hasn't been good the past couple weeks. St. Louis's defense is still a solid unit, but I think this ends up being a bit of another mid-scoring game. I think this ends up being like 20 St. Louis to about like 16 Arlington. Birmingham, Houston. Houston's had a history of pulling off an upset against Birmingham, and I think this game continues to be a close one, but Birmingham wins this. My guess would be probably about like 27 to 25. I think we finally see some good offense from Birmingham. I just got that feeling. We saw Memphis do some damage to Houston's defense, but before the 2 interceptions by EJ Perry. So I think that Birmingham finally has a good week of offense. I might change that thought, but that's my gut feeling. And then San Antonio, DC. DC's a better team. Their offense might not be great, and they just lost Ty Scott, which is a massive. I know we'll talk about that later, but that's a massive blow for them. Their offense is already questionable, and they just lost their best offensive player. So I think they're going to put up a lower scoring game. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if the San Antonio upset here, but my gut feeling is an 18 to 15 DC win.
Yeah, I think those are some great picks. I think San Antonio defense looked a lot better this past weekend, and might not have shown, but I mean, well, actually it did. I mean, the score was close, so I think it definitely showed flashes and similarities to their defense last year, and definitely something to build off of for San Antonio. So
Huge kudos to Coach Party having to take over as OC,
yeah,
having to do that kind of interim head coach stuff as well with Wade being out. Huge props to him.
yeah, and I think we also saw some tweets. Can they potentially use him for seasons in the future with Wade being at the age he is and potentially losing some of his stardom. Not I mean he hasn't looked the same since he's been out there in my opinion. I think the team has definitely looked different despite having a lot of the pieces that they had last year. So, but um, but yeah, Diego, AJ, if you guys want to either share or screen share or just share your predictions.
Yeah. I think this time around, I think I'm just gonna speak out
Yeah,
my
go ahead.
predictions instead of screen recording. But start off with Memphis, Michigan. I do think that this one's gonna be a little bit like not not close. I think that Michigan will dominate this one. I got them winning 13-25. I do think that, Perkins will play, obviously, with Elling being out, and I think that they'll look pretty good this week. And then going into the next game, Arlington, St. Louis. Now this one, I don't know with this one. I think this one could really go either way. I mean, they're both talented. They've both have shown some great things so far. But even if St. Louis does improve, I think that they lose by a touchdown to Arlington, 20-28. And then going into the next game, Birmingham, Houston. I do think that we do win this game, but as Zomb touched up on a bit, I mean, we do have a history of playing very close games, even losing to Houston. So, I mean, I can't deny it. It's true. I think that we win this game 22-15. And then the final game of the week with San Antonio and DC. I think that San Antonio will show some good things. They will look a little better, but come on, it's Audi Field. That beer snake is gonna, that atmosphere is unmatched. I got DC winning that game 19-24.
Yeah, I mean, also really good picks. I mean, to be honest, I think this week we definitely when I showed a visual later on, we showed some agreements and we showed some disagreements. I'm gonna go ahead and share mine here. I'm just gonna go like Diego and just kind of verbalize it. So I got so wait actually the viewers can see it because I am screen recording obviously, so they will see my picks. But so what I have for this first game, Memphis at Michigan. So I kind of had a similar score to Zomb. I had Michigan actually coming out with this one, and Memphis falling 0-4. I have Michigan coming out with it 24-18. A little bit of a closer one than Diego like you might have thought, but I think it'll definitely be a decent game. I do think though that Wisten Hunt will definitely. Um, I will say like I mean Nolan hasn't looked like I think he's had times where it just like he has been in like I don't want to say incompetent, but like about the quarterbacks, like you have to be more decisive at this point. And so I think Wissenham will be the better coach, but I think Michigan will be will have the better roster and ultimately win. So, but then for Houston versus Birmingham, I got Birmingham coming out with that one 20 not chronological order, but Birmingham winning that one 25-12. I probably in retrospect I probably should have made it a little bit closer just because some of the points you guys have brought up, but I think Birmingham will win that one 25-12. And then for St. Louis at Arlington, I actually agree with Diego here. I had AJ and Zomb. You guys both had the Battlehawks when you guys shared your picks. I actually agree with that. Arlington's going to come out with this one. Um, Especially, what we saw with Manny Wilkins, just the offense not looking that good against a pretty good defense in DC, but now playing a defense of similar stature of Arlington, I think Arlington's going to come out with that one, but a little bit higher scoring. I gave them benefit of the doubt. So 28-24, I have Arlington coming out in that one. And then for the final game of the weekend, San Antonio at DC. I think this is probably the most one-sided game I have here. I have DC coming out with it 27-9, and a little tidbit. I've got destroying, continuing his almost perfect year with the team, and showing that he's their best player. So, yeah. So those are my picks, and AJ, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I got Memphis and Michigan. I got Michigan winning that one 18-12. I think it'll be a close game. I almost wanted to go with Memphis for an upset, but I just think Bryce Perkins, it'll be close, and he'll run the game out in the end. St. Louis and Arlington, I got St. Louis in a close game. I got them winning 19-15. And then with Birmingham and Houston, I think it'll be closer than maybe you think. I think Birmingham's going to win, but I think Houston's defense will keep them in the game for a little bit, and Birmingham will run over it at the end. But I got Birmingham winning 23-15. And then San Antonio and DC, I got DC winning 23-12 and destroying. I got them hitting 4 field goals, so they'll get 12.
Yeah, almost almost worthy of our award this week, but not enough. We gave the upper edge to somebody else worth talking about. So, but yeah, thank you guys for sharing your predictions. I'm gonna go ahead and screen share just kind of the visuals here. Make it real quick, real snappy. Let's see, I got it right here. All right. All right, so week 4. It's crazy we're here, but you can see the overload of DC logos, as we all have them winning. We also all have Birmingham winning, but then we're split. The only things we're split on is the Battlehawks and Renegades game, and then we've all got Michigan winning. But no, I think I definitely think the closest game's got to be St. Louis and Arlington. I mean, honestly, all these games can be close, but I think that game has the potential. If obviously the St. Louis offense has gotta get back to what they did in the first couple weeks, but like we saw against a tough defense against DC, it might be tough to replicate some of those opening week performances, especially against a team like Arlington too. So, but then yeah, here's our standings. I wrote these out. Zomb, if you become a permanent member here, we'll add you to this, and we'll just have to go back and get your predictions from previous weeks. But Diego leading it with 9-3, very strong record, and then AJ coming out with 8-4, and I'm 7-5, and Raf, he actually for picking the underdogs last week, he didn't do too bad. He had what do you have? He went one. Yeah, he went 2-2. So just like the rest of us. So picking the underdogs wasn't too bad for him, but yeah, we'll definitely get into that more. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing here, so we can get into our last segments of the video. We're gonna go ahead and get into our awards. We're gonna try to make this very quick. I know you guys want to get back to your busy lives here, so we have our awards for week 2. Week 3. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with one of our awards here. I know I'm gonna let you. There's a lot of really good ones that we had this week, so I don't want to take anything from anybody. But one that I had, one that I wanted to talk about was Rodrigo Blankenship of the St. Louis Battlehawks. Now, I did allude to this a little bit, like a very, very small amount about a little bit earlier, but Rodrigo Blankenship was more worthy of this award than Destroying. I know we might have a lot of Destroying viewers that are a fan of him, but he was just more worthy because he had better precision. I believe he connected on all of his attempts this past weekend. In addition to that, Destroying might have had like a better net yardage for field goals. Like if you just look at like the attempts that he had, but Blankenship had better like consistency, and he had better just a better overall day. So even though I think if Destroying had made that field goal, then we would definitely have given it to him. But that just shows you how close it is. Blankenship having the better overall performance and ultimately getting the award. So congratulations to Rodrigo Blankenship, first-time winner in both our 2 seasons of doing this. So, if anybody wants to go ahead and get into our 5 other awards here.
Yeah, you go ahead, Dan.
Or you can go. You start first.
Okay. I'll go with Lockdown Player of the Week, Leon O'Neal, his second week in a row winning it. He had 8 tackles and a pick 6 for a touchdown against Memphis. Another great week for him. I think he'll be a factor against Birmingham next week. May not help him win, but I think he'll be a great factor.
Yeah, and like we said, we've seen posts about him potentially being Defensive Player of the Year. I don't see it out of the picture. And actually, last week he won the other defensive award. So just it goes to show he's been flying all over the place, and we're excited to see more from him. So, but yeah, Zomb or Diego, if you guys want to take the reins here.
Yeah. For our playmaker of the week, it's gonna go to Ty Scott of the DC Defenders. One guy that's a fan favorite across the UFL, not just DC fans. For this week, he had 85 yards on 3 receptions for a touchdown. He had about a 62-yard touchdown to the house. I saw that while I was at work. I'm looking, I'm like, oh my gosh, like Jordan Tomu actually threw a pretty good throw. But jokes aside, I think, he's a very talented guy. I'm pretty sure he's won this award before.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think he looked pretty good on Sunday. Just unfortunate thing, we have touched up on it a bit. He is on injured reserve. He has a broken arm, I believe. Just not something that you want to look at, and something to note that the UFL IR is a minimum of 5 weeks. So, we'll see how this thing goes. If he maybe does come back in the end of the season, or if the Defenders do make the playoffs, we'll see. But my prayers out to him as how he recovers.
Yeah, and I think they've got a little bit more of a wide receiver friendly, but I mean, like you said, it sucks to see anybody get hurt, and with him having that performance, some of our other guys have had, you just would wanted them to build off of it, but as we know, that's not going to be possible. So for Ty Scott, we hope to see you back on the football field soon, and because you're a great player just like everybody else. So Zomb, if you wanted to go ahead and get into one of them.
Yeah, I'm going to have to talk about the defense player of the week, Andre Mintz. Some might he basically had 2 plays, but man, for 2 plays, he made a massive impact. He got 2 separate strip sack fumbles on Manny Wilkins in this game, including one of them which he actually recovered the fumble for. I mean, the whole talk's been on Manny's interceptions, but before he really threw those interceptions, it was the fact that Mintz was just getting right in the backfield, just absolutely bullying him. I mean, he was a huge reason the defenders were able to start the game off as hot as they did. And I mean, man, I think he deserves this award for this week.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I don't think we didn't have many like that we looked at. Like besides him, I mean it was kind of I mean we could have given it to a couple other guys on DC's defense, but I think he stood out and was definitely worthy of it. So it's crazy. We've got three players of DC. I'll get into the last player for it here. Jordan Teamu. And Zomb, obviously we saw you don't agree with us completely on this take, but we thought he was worthy of it because as all the rest of these are, not a very high bar for this winning this award, at least this week. I mean, we hope in the coming weeks that the bar is at least a little bit higher for some of these awards. But Jordan Teamu, Air Player of the Week. I think at times he showed he made some good plays. Obviously got them the win. But like you said, could be in spite of him, and at times just could use a change of scenery in DC. Not something that you rule out completely, but overall there weren't many other good performances, and we thought that he had the best one, and that was our take on who should win this week. So, but yeah, our final award, whoever wants to get into that.
I'll take that one. Ground player of the week is Jaden Sheridan. We saw Matt Colburn go down last week, and he was one of the guys that stepped up for Michigan this week. He had 59 rushing yards and a touchdown on that big time run for Michigan. They kind of helped pull the game away. Like I said, a great week for him. His first time winning an award, I believe. So congratulations to him, and he's our ground player of the week.
Yeah, and it's crazy because he's only 22, and I went online and I'm like, is this the right guy? Because I've seen different names, like is it Jaden, right? And it was weird because he was with the Carolina Panthers and now he's with the Michigan Panthers. So just something to add. I didn't know if it was the same person or not, but it is. So yeah, congratulations to all of our winners. We're gonna go ahead and get into the video here, and then we'll wrap things up. Let's go ahead and show the video here. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen one more time. I just gotta navigate back to the main page. Here we go. Oh wait, let's open it first. All right, here we go. All right, so just for this part, we're just gonna watch the video and then. All right, here we go. Oh wait, no, don't worry, we can get it. I'll be able to get it. Let's see, is it this one? It should be this or this one. It's this one. There we go. So there you see, we had the award show. Were you guys able to see it, or was I just? I feel so bad. I'm so sorry.
It's
So
no big deal.
it'll be on the main Spring Into Football page. I'll be able to post that when we're done here. Um, but no. So what I saw at the end is that the Stallions have yet to win an award. I think that they will be able to win one here in the next coming weeks. We said I think we said that last week, but obviously with their rough performance, it was hard to give anybody on that team. But no, I think DC now leads with 6. They had half of that this week with 3, and then I forgot what the other teams looked like, but we'll have that video, full video up on the Spring Into Football page. You guys can check it out. AJ and Diego, I know what you guys know what it looks like, but Zomb, I know you're gonna want to know what it looks like, and kind of just a breakdown. We got stats on there. We have the leaderboard for the team. So we really got the full thing. Thank you to AJ for making that again. So, but yeah, just a final kind of just a final discussion here of kind of what we think about week 4, and what are you guys looking forward to? Anything that you want to see more of, or see the same of from these teams, or I know we've kind of talked about offense, defense, but what are some things that you guys might want to see in this week 4 here?
Really just see how St. Louis is just going to navigate this next matchup against Arlington. I mean, Anthony Beck, he's a guy, a lot of people like him, but a lot of people are also critical of how he really coaches this whole team. Like, is he going to stick with Wilkins? Is he going to stick with Duggan? Like, how are these decisions going to really fall into how this is going to go? And just as a side note, I just saw this as I was looking on Instagram during the video. I want to report that Darius Harper was just re-signed with Birmingham, which is a huge pickup. He was there in these last 3 years. Just wanted to address that really quick.
Yeah, and then also I saw that you sent Brandon Sebastian heading off to IR
Mhm.
for the Battlehawks. I think they've got a great defense, but that'll definitely shake things up. I think he's a good player, and I mean really anybody who goes to IR, it's an adjustment for the team, and I mean all these players we've seen Breland Speaks go down, we've seen Matt Coburn go down, we've seen Etling, we've seen Magoo go down. I mean just a lot of quarterbacks. So now it's up to the teams to kind of manage that and to put new players out there and to kind of work with that. So. But yeah, no, I'm excited for this week too. I think Arlington versus St. Louis is going to be a great game. I think we could potentially see an upset or two in the more anticipated one-sided games. And I think I think overall it'll be a great week, and hopefully we see increased ratings, increased attendance, increased offensive production. But then again, I wouldn't necessarily be upset if we still saw more of the defensive theme, but it just it wouldn't it would just be like another week because we can't use the excuse anymore that it's the first opening weeks of the season, because only week 1 and week 2 you can use that, and even if we get to a next year, we're probably not going to use that excuse anymore, because the teams would have looked so good. But yeah, those are my final thoughts. But AJ or Zomb, what do you guys think?
I'm honestly looking forward to San Antonio's second week of their offense without AJ Smith, see if it continues improving. And I'm hopeful that the attendance all looks pretty solid this week. I know Arlington just, lost this last week, but so far, when you're looking at attendance, 3 of these 4 teams have so far had really solid attendance compared to what we expected them to have. Maybe Houston rebounds thanks to the win. Maybe they hit 8K this week, but I would say I'm mainly looking forward for San Antonio's offense, though, man. It looked a lot better this last weekend. Hopefully they improve again. Hopefully Mond puts up a really solid performance, one that was even better than last week. And, maybe they pull off the upset.
It would definitely be a great story because Peyton Pardee, like we mentioned, was in charge of the team last week. I think Wade's gonna be out there most likely, but it'll just go to show, with the first week without AJ Smith, right? You got two new guys, right? Because Wade Phillips was down, and then I think he was, what was he, a safeties coach? Why is he? No, special teams coach. He kind of took over everything. I mean, like wide receivers, quarterback. I mean, really everything. And for him to make that change, like even if he's not the main guy on Sunday, and they just pull it out, it'll just be a great story. But regardless of what happens, I think it'll be a great game. So, AJ, did you have any final thoughts for this week?
Just real quick, I was excited about the St. Louis and Arlington game. They're both 2-1. They're in the XFL conference. So whoever wins this game, if DC wins, they'll be in second. And it may not, be a big thing now, but it could be big towards the end of the season when you coming up the tiebreakers, and it looks like Arlington and St. Louis and DC will all be trying to battle, and they're all, within the game of each other. So I think this is a big game when you look at the landscape of the season. And I'm excited to see who wins.
Yeah, and that'll be great. I mean, a part of the Saturday slate, we have that game on in the morning, kind of like right before noon at 11:30, and we've got the Birmingham game on at night at 6. I think it'll be a great weekend overall. Thank you guys so much for joining. We had a great time as always, and then we'll put the full video up so you guys can check it out. And but yeah, enjoy another weekend of football, and as always, stay in touch.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks guys.
See you.
See ya.